Welcome to TableTalk, the Care Provider Solution Show, which is where we do our best to encourage and enlighten some of the most amazing people in the world. Adult foster care owners and operators, managers, caregivers. Today we're talking with Debra Berry, who is simply an amazing woman, a mother, a grandmother, a retired nurse,
Yes.
right? A life coach, and get this, an energy leadership master practitioner, which Deborah's going to explain to us, which serves a lot of people very well. Today, our own coach, our very own coach at Care Provider Solutions, Nadine Carlson, will be talking with Deborah about self-care.
So, Debra, I find your background really fascinating. And in the world of adult foster care, the owners, the operators, and the caregivers all have a heart and passion to provide care for those. And because they have that passion, a lot of times they forget to take care of themselves because they're always taking care of other people. And burnout tends to be a common struggle amongst caregivers. And when I heard about you, I was really excited to talk to you because with your coaching background and this energy leadership index that I'm looking forward to hearing about, by the time we're done, I'd love to hear the steps to help caregivers take that self-care so that they don't burn out, and then ultimately they can provide the best care to their residents for a long time. So I'm going to turn it over to you and we'll ask questions along the way.
Well, where to begin, huh?
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say I started out in high school as a nurse's aide. And all through nursing, I never felt like anybody was caring about me, including myself, although I didn't recognize that. There was a time I wanted out of nursing really bad because it was nursing burnout, same stress, the same things that you're talking about. I found coaching about 20 years ago and went through a program called IPAC, or the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And I went, oh my gosh, I've been a coach all my life. I just didn't have the skills. So that opened a whole new doors to me, and I began seeing life very differently. We'll talk about the Energy Leadership Index later, but the concept of energy being how we show up in life, how we show up to the world, how we show up to ourselves. And the leadership part is we're all leaders. We're leading ourselves, we're leading families, we're leading at work, we lead in communities, and all different types of relationships. So it just became so life-changing for me. When I decided that I did not want to practice as a nurse anymore, I wanted to continue in the coaching world and serve more people, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. So eventually, I began to put my nursing and the coaching together, started out in a broader perspective where I thought I was going to coach transitions in life. And then because of a lot of personal things that were going on, and when I started looking back at my life course, I went, no, this is about family caregiving. This is about the elderly. My nursing degree, I have an advanced nursing degree, and it was in gerontology. So I had worked in home care, I had worked in long-term care, a little bit in assisted livings. I had a practice for a little while as a nurse practitioner where I saw older people and I saw both ends of the spectrum. At one time, I was working with a psychiatrist and a neuropsychologist, and we were doing evaluations for people and families with dementia. So at the end of all that, I would be the one that would sit with the families and say, here's medically the findings, here's the findings from testing from the neuropsychologist. Now where do we go and how can we help from here? So it was a natural course for me to come back to here. So here I am.
Wonderful. So, Gritty Sisters, that's
Yeah.
the name of your company, and Grit, if I heard you correctly, is the is. Why don't you explain it?
So the concept of grit came basically from Angela Duckworth, who is a PhD, and I forgot if it's in sociology or psychology, but she looks at grit meaning G is the guts, R is the resilience, I is the initiative, and T is the tenacity. And at the time when I was trying to figure out what's my next step, what is my purpose, where's my meaning, that grit kept coming up, that especially in women, because I'm a woman, we have this grit. That's how we get through life. And I wanted to develop this community of women. And so it became Gritty Sisters.
Yeah, I love that title. And
Thank
it
you.
applies so well when you're talking about caregivers as well. 'Cause
Absolutely.
out of so many professions, I think they demonstrate that term to 100%.
I agree.
All right, so how does that translate into knowing how to provide self-care for yourself so you don't experience that burnout?
You know, I didn't share this before, but several years ago, I decided nurses didn't know how to take care of themselves. So I did a weekend of nurturing the nurse.
Okay.
So beginning to talk about self-care, and I look at it from a holistic perspective. We're not just nurses, we're mothers, we're daughters, we're grandmothers. We have all these other components. Plus, how does that work that we do, whether it was as a nurse or as a family caregiver or an owner of a foster care home, how does that impact your life? From a spiritual to a financial to relationships with family and friends, your own personal development, all those components. So that's how I approach caregiving. So if I'm talking with a caregiver, I don't want to just know that you're stressed and you're burned out caregiving, but how has that impacted your relationship with your family? How is that impacting your health? How is that impacting financial things in your life? So where I had to start to look at my own self as well as helping caregivers is, what is it I need that I'm not getting? And then where am I really feeling out of balance with all of this? What am I missing and how do I get it? So it's always, I think, a good starting point there. I use a couple of other tools. One is called the Wheel of Life. And I brought a couple to share and leave with you today. And the other is just values clarification, because I think you have to know where you are in this wheel of life with all those components. Plus, really looking at your values. So one of the things I do when I work with people is for them to understand so that I can understand where their values are so I can meet them where they're at. My values may not be theirs, but I really believe in honoring people where they are at and then finding out where they want to go. And I can help go from where you're at to where you want to go and keep those values in mind. The other thing I wanted to bring to you today is called Signature Strengths. And that's an assessment that you can do online. Are you familiar with that?
No, we've taken
Okay.
a few different ones. But
Yeah.
those are always fun.
Yeah, you can do this online. There are 24 elements of that, and you can look at all 24, but I always look at my top 5, and then using those strengths in the work that you do and the way that you're living your life, and that makes a huge difference.
Wonderful. So can I ask a question
Sure.
about some of these? So let's say as a caregiver, I fill out the Wheel of Life and I find that my different categories are maybe misaligned with what I'm doing for work. What do I do with that? Does that mean I'm in the wrong field and that in order to prevent me from continuing to feel burned out, I have to leave, or what else could it mean?
The Wheel of Life is primarily looking at your satisfaction with these different areas of your life. So when you do this, then you connect the dots around the wheel and you can see where it's low, you're high. Maybe you don't need to do anything financially, but maybe what you're really missing is something in your health. You want to improve that area. So together you decide that. I help you decide, what do you want to work on first? What's missing first? Maybe it's just simple things like getting out and taking a walk, the exercise part of health, or calming your mind. Like for me, nothing better is to go out on a little hike and be out in nature.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. And for a supervisor of a caregiver, they could also use this as a tool to help for retention and
Absolutely.
for helping them maximize themselves as a person so they feel fulfilled and ultimately less burned out.
Right.
That's great
Right.
stuff. Okay, so let's talk more about that values clarification. What does that look like?
It's just a tool with different values on it. It could be valuing family to your career to sometimes people add extras that I don't have on the tool, and then a measure scaling out 1 to 10. How important is this to you, and where are you at with this right now?
Okay. And then how could I apply that to me, that information?
Well, one of your highest values is time with your family or relationships with whatever, and you're spending all your time over there working, we've got to up that for you, help you shift up into that.
Okay, great. So it's a good way to set goals then.
Mm-hmm. Or it might be, again, around, I always kind of go back to the health thing. It could be around nutrition, your health. Maybe you say you really value your health, and that's one of your top, let's say 3. But when you look at where you're at, it's way down on the list. So how do we shift and get you up?
Okay. And this is all part of a one-on-one discussion and mentorship too.
You can do the Wheel of Life on your own. You can do the values clarification on your own. Where I come in is, okay, you did it. You know this. What do you want to do about it? And how do we move forward with it?
Okay, good. And then the signature strengths.
Signature Strengths was developed in part by Marty Siegelman, who at one time, well, he's considered the father of positive psychology.
Okay.
And I think he was out at Penn State. He was a psychiatrist, and he was the president of the American Psychiatric Society. He's really the first one that started looking at why are we always focused on weaknesses and what's wrong instead of really what's right about everything.
Wow, what year was that?
Oh boy. I'm going to say, and I'm guessing, maybe late 80s to early 90s. It's fairly new. Yeah. So he's written different books. Trying to think of one of his books that I have that was like, oh my word. It's about changing, not just the signature strength. All of this, though, is really about, we think, most of us, that we have this feeling. You know, we feel sad or we feel whatever, and then we have these thoughts. And actually, it's in reverse. It's actually the thought that comes before the feeling. So it's learning to listen to the thought, then goes to the feeling, and then that moves you into action. But if you're always in that feeling, you can get stuck and not taking any action. We have all these thoughts that we grew up with. We call them, in coaching, we call them gales. So it's a grumbling. That is that voice in your head. Who do you think you are? And we learned them mostly when we were younger, from teachers, from parents, from different people. But it's like, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? You did this once, it didn't work. How do you think you're going to make any change now? So that's the G. The A is the assumptions, which I kind of got ahead of myself. But I tried that once and it didn't work, so it's not going to work again. And then our perspective or interpretation of our environment, whatever that is, and then the limiting beliefs. So in coaching, we look at those, we listen for those, and help reframe them.
And when those are reframed, then you're in a better mental health state so that you're less burned out? Is that a correct assumption?
Yes. And in the, I'm probably getting ahead a little bit, but in the energy leadership index.
Okay.
Within that energy, we talk about these 7 layers of energy. So at the lowest level is what we call feeling like a victim. And you did this to me. I'm never going to get any better, blah, blah, blah. We blame. There's a lot of apathy around it, and there's very little action to make a change. Up to the highest level, which, you know what, I'm going to cheat.
Cheating is allowed.
Thank you. Up to what is called absolute passion.
Okay.
That is an energy level so high that we all experience, but you can't hold it. You can't hold on to it because it's that moment of richness, passion, love. It's fleeting. It comes and goes, but you can learn to get there more often. It's moving up to a level where things that happen to you, you start looking for the opportunity in it. And changing some of your, what I call your core thoughts. Mm-hmm. So this happened, I didn't like it, but it is what it is. Kind of, now what am I going to do with that? Mm-hmm. So that's just a small example of that.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So in the core, should I go ahead?
Yeah,
with the core
please
energy?
Do.
So that it's a 70. I think it's 70 questions. It's a self-assessment. It's mostly, you can do it online, or I think I can still get paper copies. I haven't gotten one for a while. And then they answer these questions. You get a copy of the results, and then I do a debrief with you around those results. Mm-hmm. So the first time I did it, my energy level was showing up at a 2, which is just above the victim. So there was a lot of conflict in my life. You know, so an example, I'll say, well, I want to win, and I might want you to win too. Okay, mm-hmm. So the conflict was learning to shift that up so that I could see more opportunity. I could be of more service to people, including myself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that gets done, and the debrief is about an hour to an hour and a half, and we just walk through each part of the index, and I might ask questions like, so does that feel right to you? Tell me more about that. And I'm listening for some of those scales that we talked about, listening for values that are in there. Mm-hmm. And then people can decide to go on, and we can do work around that, or they can just stop with that information.
That'd be valuable for anybody.
I think so. I got really excited about it, Nadine, mm-hmm. when you reached out. I'm like, wow, this is really valuable to anyone, I believe. But really with the owners, especially all that they have on their plate, mm-hmm. and looking at, how do I manage all this? How am I showing up for, oh my gosh, their employees, the care recipients, the families that are coming in and out, and my own self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So by understanding the mindset, from taking these tests, we better understand our mindset, and then how we can process that maybe in a different way, especially if we have a really low score, mm-hmm. so that ultimately we're showing up better for our work, for the people we're serving, and we feel more energized and less burned out as a result. Right. Is that a good summary, you think?
It's excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
I might use it going forward.
Oh, that's fine.
I've learned that I have this knowledge and these experiences, and I think everyone else already knows and understands it. So I have to step back and try to.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we actually forget. You know, we hear about tools like this, and wow, that sounds super exciting. I'm gonna put that on my to-do list, and then the to-do list was written on a napkin and it gets thrown out, or it gets buried under the ever-increasing stack of papers. So it's good to get reminded if you've heard about it, and if you haven't, like what we're hearing right now, to learn of new ways to learn more about ourselves so that we can ultimately be better.
Right. I was looking at, so how do they take positive, productive action. And I went back to the beginning and said, well, you have to start and understand what matters most to you and where the missing pieces are for you. And then I think when you know that, you can utilize like the signature strengths or work with a coach or do the ELI assessment. It just moves you ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had asked me about what does caring for the caregiver look like?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just jotted down a couple of things, and I said it's being able to shift to what we call the catabolic energy or the negative energy in our lives up to the anabolic or the positive energy. So this happens to me. Look for the learning in it. Look for the opportunity in it. You can't change what's in the past, but you can change how you go forward and how you think about it. Looking at what gales are impacting your life, those gremlins, assumptions, the limiting beliefs, and how you interpret things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, from a coaching perspective, celebrating your wins. I don't think we take time enough to celebrate and champion or cheerlead us on. A friend and I developed something we call the four-wall bow because we both work alone, basically. A lot of our time is spent alone. So when we do something really good, we say to each other, take a four-wall bow. And it means just to stand up or, thank you very much. You turn to the four walls. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I also developed a playlist to celebrate me too of music because I like music. A lot of it is, again, about it. Either yourself or having someone acknowledge and validate what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
And then I say, understanding someone that understands what you do. So you and Jeff, having done this work, you understand, and now you're out there. You've lived it.
Mm-hmm.
You've lived the experience, and now you're out there passing it on. I think compassion is a really big deal too.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to listen. Being present, holding a space for people to put out there what's going on and without judgment. This is what's happening. I'm not going to judge it, but what do you want to do differently?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, a lot of reframing things,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of reframing how we think about things.
Interesting. So when you said the word gremlins, that kind of stuck in my head. I think one of the gremlins, when working with someone that has so many things going on in their lives, is when am I ever going to find the time to even be able to do some of these things? So what kind of advice would you give surrounding that? If I recognize I need to assess where I'm at, so that I can make positive change, but I don't have the time to do it.
I think that goes back to the values.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at and where you're at right now with that, I use the wheel of life that I talked about. Where do you want to make time to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you, if you say, for example, what you do in your work is not the most important thing. Let's just say maybe Jeff is. Well, where are you making time for Jeff and letting some of what you're going through in the work and what's playing through for you that's getting in the way of that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good answer.
Okay.
Alrighty. So if we were to kind of boil this down into just like a 2-minute snippet, what would you say in order to provide the best care for ourselves so that we don't burn out and we're showing up for the people that we love in our lives and care for? What are those 3 critical steps to take to start moving forward?
I think first you need to remember whatever got you to where you are today is in the past. So there's nothing you can change about that.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever's going to happen in the future, you don't have any control over that either.
Mm-hmm.
You can plan, you can have goals, but you're not there yet. So right here in the moment, what is going on that you need to address? to move forward where you want to go. So I can't. I think they say worry or the future is about anxiety and the past is about regrets. So the now is the present. Now is what you can do and work on.
Great. And you have the tools that you recommended in the now to be able to start that process. So what we'll do is we'll provide links to each of these, correct? And so that people can access those in addition to the certificate that Jeff mentioned. And if they wanted to reach out to you to learn more, what's the best way? Website, phone number, all those good details.
So I'm going to back up just a little
Okay.
bit. So if somebody would like a copy of the Wheel of Life or the Values Clarification, if they send me their email address, because I don't own it, as it appears, the one that I use, I need to give credit. That comes from IPAC, from the coaching
Gotcha.
program I went through. The energy leadership, that's also proprietary to IPAC. I actually purchased the assessment
Okay.
and then send it to them, and then the debriefing. So if they want to know more about that, they can email me also. The signature strengths, do you want to link that later?
Yes,
Here?
we'll
Okay.
link that.
That's free. You
Okay.
do have to register, but it's free. And I usually do that about once a year. It's interesting because we change. We're dynamic. We're having experiences and learning and moving, and so it changes. But I always think it's kind of fun because a couple of them always show up for me, so I feel,
That's
really
your core.
strong. Those are really core to me.
Yeah. When you went through your life changes with the divorce and the things that were really stressful, had you taken one of these before and then one a few years later? Did
I
you
had.
find that there was a significant shift between being in a state of trauma and then not being?
In my strengths, I would say I'll share with you. So spirituality and gratitude are always in my first 5. So those have pretty much stayed consistent since I first came across this. Other things will change, like this last time, social justice fell out a little bit. And I went, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why that happened. Or and something else moved up a little bit more. So when I was actually going through those things, I found that I was always going back to the gratitude and spiritual teachings or components to get me through. Yeah. Bruce Snyder was the founder of IPAC, and I was fortunate enough when I went through that he was still teaching. So this is his work.
Okay, so sometimes there's an example where an owner has a home and they're going to be expanding. So what that means is more stuff to keep track of, more caregivers to hire, more caregivers to manage. So the stress level can increase if there's not processes or systems in place. So if I want to take a conscious effort to take care of myself, if I'm the person scaling up, then what would you recommend? Would it be anything different than what we've reviewed so that so that we can keep that energy level high to be able to accomplish all those goals?
What I needed to learn, and this might sound kind of crazy, but I needed to learn to get up earlier and build my time for me. So Hal Elrod wrote a book called The Miracle Mile, and he has what he calls the saviors, and it's 10 minutes each of silence, be in silence with yourself, affirmations, saying affirmations, visualizing what you want to get done that day or in the future, exercise. And I don't know about you, but that's a tough one for me, but I can do 10 minutes. Reading, and it could be any type of reading, And then the last S is scribing or journaling, just writing whatever is there. And if 10 minutes is too much, maybe 2 minutes. And now you've got it down to 12 minutes or dividing that up in some way. So you're taking time at the beginning of your day to take care of yourself in that way. And then just maybe to think about your day and how you want it to unfold and how you want to show up.
Because you could wake up and feel like everything in your day is owned by someone else. You have to get there on time for that person. You have to do this for that person. That's interesting. Just set aside time.
Yeah. And it takes practice. I mean, I'm still practicing it. And some days I do better than others. So.
Yeah. So we within ourselves have the power to take control of those moments in time, so that we're taking care of ourselves, so that we can take care of other people better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I have a little something in my head too. I do, like when I was walking in here today, I'll just say something like, okay, how do you need to show up for them? What do you need to do to be present? I mean, just whatever that is. Most of all, I want to be in service. So how can I be in service? How can I be in the best service today in this time with you and Jeff?
And that didn't take more than what, 2-3 minutes?
From the car to the house. I'm going.
Well, that's such an easy, practical way to simplify the basic of how we can take care of ourselves. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I've got to say, you seem very present. You have not lost my attention, and that's saying a lot. Yeah, you've been right here helping us and taking care of us. And our caregivers that we work with, whether it was in our homes before or helping other people now, that's the type of people they are. They focus on others. They understand how to serve. That's a pretty cool industry to be in.
I don't know if you both have been aware of this, but I'll give you another little tidbit that you can do. If you are talking with someone, if you look right eye to right eye, you keep them more engaged. They don't even know what's happening. And I stay more engaged.
Right. So
it's a neuro.
So I'm using my right eye to look at yours.
Interesting.
Which is what I do when I am trying to stay present to people. Yeah. So
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that with us, haven't you?
I have.
And it helps keep you more focused too?
It helps me stay more present to you and more focused, because I'm getting a lot of information back, because at the same time I do this, I see your body language. I see that Jeff is leaning in and engaging, and you're making the notes and obviously listening, because look at all these great notes that you have, and then that makes me want to give you more.
Wow.
Okay. Very good, Brad. We're learning all sorts of great stuff here.
Now, I would like to ask you, Nadine, I know you're pretty good at this self-care. You exercise, you take time to read every day. How else could you explain the way that you take care of yourself?
Well, I think it's creating habits, and maybe you can speak to that as part of your coaching as well, but creating those changes in my life if I've not done it before, and making them regular enough, whether it's a 2-minute time like you did from walking from the car into here, or it's an hour time, doing a physical exercise or something that just really gets me excited. It just becomes part of who I am. And that seems to have worked over all these years. Doesn't make, all the problems go away, but it takes the edge off of it.
Can I give you another little example?
Yeah.
So there isn't anything about exercise I've ever loved. I like yoga, so I try to do my yoga 3 or 4 times a week. But I also decided I needed to walk more. So I started not saying I need to walk more. I said I am a walker. And so because I am a walker, then I go out and walk.
So you're self-affirming then. So
I am a walker. I am a person that gets up early to.
Ways to trick your own mind.
It all starts here.
So let's say I'm a caregiver. I'm really angry because I don't feel like I've received the support that I need to do my job well. I may have residents with behaviors, so I'm constantly getting interrupted and I can't focus on a task at hand. What can I do to be able to move forward and continue to operate in that type of environment? What if I were coaching with you? What would you recommend to me, knowing that information?
Off the top of my head right now, I would say boundaries, establishing time away from the situation where you're protecting your boundaries, protecting your time. And maybe that's only 10, 15 minutes at a time, but if you need to, if you're an owner, a caregiver of this and feeling overwhelmed, but you can't find 10, 15 minutes for you to make that call to get scheduled to go to the dentist or a physician, let's say, that's not about actually what's really happening. It's about you taking care of yourself and moving out of that and valuing yourself and being your own caregiver and establishing something out here to protect and then protect that. Sometimes I will say, I can't be with you right now. I'm not 100% here. But if you give me this amount of time, or let me call you I'll call you back within this time frame so that I can go away and then come back and be fully present. Because many times when we're feeling the anger around this conflict that's going on, we just have not had that, like a pregnant pause, just to stop. And it's not about me. Well, it is about me, but this is what's going on, and I have to remove myself from it before I can go back and be fully present to them.
Okay, that's a really good example. So let's give you another example. So I am emotionally attached to my residents. They're like family to me, like a daughter, a son, like a grandma, grandpa, all the spectrum. So for me to think about taking self-care for myself, setting up boundaries is like uncalled for, because I need to be there for these people. So if I'm that type of person, I know I'm burned out because I'm tired all the time. It's hard for me to get out of bed. I'm just not motivated to do stuff that used to excite me. But I have to show up because I love these people like they're my own.
They need me.
Yeah, they need me. Exactly.
And they do.
Right. So what do you do with that?
Well, two things come to mind for me. First is the flight attendant who says, in case of an emergency and the oxygen mask, put your mask on first before you can help someone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's, what do you need to do that? The other part that comes up for me right now is, well, I'm just curious. Where did you get so powerful that you think you are the only one that can do that? That is filling your need to have to be there all the time. Isn't there someone else or another way to fill that and still care about that person?
That's convicting.
So that goes back to who you really are and what you need. Okay.
I often think about it as I'm a nurse, I'm a woman, I'm an enabler. I'm going to go in and fix everyone. And I've had to learn to go, not my circus, not my monkeys. I can't fix anyone. I can love them, I can care about them, there's a certain amount that I can do for them, but I can't fix it. They have to, and they have to want to. And I can't make somebody want to. They have to be ready for that.
And in that case, that's why these tools are so important,
Uh-huh.
is to help kind of unpack all of that.
And I'll tell you personally, the biggest thing for me was to take this happened, and it's really what's happening is not really about me. It's my reaction to it, and how do I want to show up in it.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
So when those things happen now, I go, okay. My dad, wise man, always said, there's a lesson to be learned if you're willing to look for it. There's truth in that ugly statement or whatever, if you're willing to look at it. And then this helped me go, okay, what's the opportunity here? What's the opportunity for me to learn? What's the opportunity for me to do something different, to have a different outcome? Because I don't like the outcome of feeling like a victim and poor me, or everything happens to me, or I can't control all of this.
So I'm thinking, as an owner that's managing caregivers, what you may have to help me with the question here.
Okay.
So where I'm trying to go is, how can the owners support their caregivers in recognizing their stress points, that they're actually burning out when they might not see it themselves? Do you have any tips from an outsider's perspective on how, like, if I see that you're having a really bad day and I'm either your supervisor or even a friend, you might not see it. How can I approach you about that?
I think there's a couple great ways to ask the question. Like, you can see that going on, but you don't really know what's behind all of that. So you can be curious, or you can wonder. So saying to the employee, the direct caregiver, I'm just curious. I've noticed this behavior. What's going on? What's happening? And then giving them also some space and being present to them. And maybe it's something as simple as, okay, maybe how about a 5-minute break? Just go take a walk outside for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and then come back. And then you can, because you're here because I know you like this, I see what you do, finding the positive things instead, because we all our society tends to dwell on all the negative instead of looking for the good.
Exactly. And, the workforce environment has changed so much. Back in the day, as a supervisor, you could just say, I expect you to do it, and walk away without too much of a care in the world. Whereas now, with the workforce shortage being so prevalent, it's so important to nurture and be curious and provide those resources so that your staff wants to stay with you.
Right.
And they feel fulfilled in what they're doing. And I think maybe that is part of the solution to feeling burned out too, is just feeling appreciated and valued.
It kind of reminds me of when I was a nurse. I never stayed in a job. One job I had for 7 years, but every 3 or 4 years I would change. Part of it was I felt like I kind of had mastered the job. Now I wanted to move on. But then I started realizing wherever I went. And how was I showing up when I went here? And what did I need to do differently?
Look in the mirror. I heard you say, approach somebody and ask them how they're doing. What's going on when you see a problem?
Yeah, or I'm just curious. I wonder what's going on here.
But that can be scary. You wonder, are they going to be offended? Will they be angry that I'm crying? Sometimes that wall comes up too.
Maybe it's like, what happened? I'm trying to come up with a scenario that I can, from an experience that I had. I have one. I remember I was working in my first hospice job, and it was back before the phones that we have now. So staff carried pagers. And if I needed them, I'd go to this little machine and page them. And I got the call back, happened to be a chaplain, and he said, okay, I'm going to go do this, whatever. Then came into the office later, and he was furious. His face was beet red, and he goes, you think I run out? And I'm like, John, whoops, I said, his name was John. I said, John, I just said, help me understand. I'm not judging. I don't know what you're doing, but help me understand what's going on so I can be of some help. So maybe to help me understand what's happening here. And you know what? Most supervisors, managers, I would say, at least back then, didn't talk to an employer like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I had learned to be curious and wonder and help me understand. And once I explained that to him, I could just see that level of kind of come down. He goes, well, I thought you were, and I said, I'm sorry you thought that. I was just trying to understand because I'm not out there. I don't know that you've gotten 3 calls while you're going from this place to that place and had a flat tire on the way or whatever. I'm just need to try that so I can move some things around for you and clear some space.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a little bit of practice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a little bit of courage maybe to say, hey, I'm just an employees that are not used to that will have a little bit of a what?
Mm-hmm. Until trust is developed and they know they can be open and honest.
Yeah. And being honest with, like I said earlier, like I can't be present to you right now because this is happening, but I'm going to get back to you and then following through that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Look.
Wonderful.
I've also been reading a lot about employers, employees, and the employees that are caregivers. Most employers, what I'm reading, understanding in some of these studies, they don't even know that their employees are caregivers. They don't ask that. So all the distractions that happen when you're a caregiver at work, maybe they have something like that going on at home. And you know, you don't have to dig in and know all their personal stuff, but just understanding.
Mm-hmm. And be curious.
Being curious, being compassionate about it, being empathetic, not fixing it, but just holding a space. I always say, being present and holding a space.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Okay.
Good advice for all of us, including owners and managers of people.
Mm-hmm.
And for myself, sometimes I have to call up someone and say, hey, do you have a few minutes? I just need your presence and some space for me. I had this one CEO that I would say, don't hire me unless you can give me some time to decompress and recompose. And when I come in and I'm like, at you, I don't need you to fix it. Or when I'm all done, you can offer me suggestions, but I just need to get it out so that I can recompose myself and go back out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listening is a powerful tool.
It is. Yeah. And listening for what's not being said.
Well, that's the next level.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in.
That's where I come in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about tools that we can use for self-care, but there's also fun projects we can do for self-care too. And you mentioned that you have a vision board. So I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm super busy. We've talked about that a lot as examples. How could I create a vision board for myself in an effort to provide my self-care if let's say I'm working with residents and that sort of stuff?
Some people have great, vision boards, you get these big poster sheets. Mine's a piece of paper like this. And I divide it by those different things in my life, my finances, fun and leisure I have on there, family. And then what I did this year was I just found pictures on the internet and put them all in a document and printed them in some words. And so I stuck it in those different areas. And then in the center, for me this year, I came across something that was talking about power and power being of service, a gift from God to be of service. That's what power is about. So that's the center of it for me, along with grit down there. But last year, can I just say, at the end of the year, I went, oh, wow, look at everything you did that was on that board. And it's just something that sits in front of, on the wall.
And I wondered that if you just post the picture, if somehow your mind, even though you're doing so many other things, figures out ways to accomplish that vision.
It's part of that visualization and that process I was talking about, but then having that picture or some of those words there, one of my dream, what do they call those? What was that movie, you know, where your bucket list?
Oh yeah, that was a great movie.
It kept coming up to go to the Canadian Rockies. So I just put the words Canadian Rockies on there, and I put a picture of a train because there's a trip that goes from Vancouver. I just went to Banff, but it'll go up into Jasper area. And I just put it there, and I went, oh, I don't have the money to do that right now, but I'm going to put it up there. And then I had also put under my family different things that I wanted to do with my family. And one of them was just to have fun. And so not only did I take my trip to the Canadian Rockies, we spent, I say fun, it was Christmas at Disney. I mean, it was also exhausting. Yeah, so some of them went for, I just have 2 children and 3 grandkids. So my son and I were, when the concept of going to Disney came up, we're like, oh, we don't want to go to Disney. And then he said, I don't have the money to go to Disney. And I went, you know what, this is about family and spending time together. And as everyone's getting older, we do less and less of that. So we're going to make this happen. And but you and I are only going to go for 3 days to the park. So we were there 5 days total, but he and I only did parks for 3 days. So there it was, both of those things, and I didn't know how that was going to happen. But you put it out, you know, the sense is putting it out to the universe and watch what happens.
And I see it also being even a fun activity to do with the people you're caring for. You know, just taking a stack of magazines that you've accumulated, and whether it's going to the Tigers game or the Lions since they're hot right now, or even just sitting on a beach chair with a picture of your feet looking over a lake. It doesn't have to even cost any money.
You could do it all. I mean, you could do all these different, I mean, you could have 5 or 6 different vision boards around different aspects of your life. I hadn't thought of that one before, so thanks for that.
So I was taking care of myself and taking care of the others at the same time. So thanks for that idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we could talk all day, a lot of ideas. So if you've enjoyed this discussion and you would like to continue it, maybe with other AFC owners, your friends on our groups, that's why we supply you with a community to share ideas and get support from each other. So thank you, Debra, for being with us and chatting. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We will put all of her information on the screen at the end here so that you can contact her if you'd like. The quiz she gives sounds pretty interesting, and then her follow-up assessment of that, right? And your help in growing. Of course, Nadine is always available for coaching you in how to run your AFC better. Send your pain points to her and she'll see how she can relieve those for you. Thanks for joining us, and our hope for you is that you will continue to rekindle your passion for caregiving for those who need help in life, and please don't let stress in your job rob you of your enjoyment of that job.